What up guys, Otterpop here. Well, I am finally doing another forensics video, as I've been kind of hoping to lately. This one is going to be a little bit different, and I'll explain why. A lot of forensic sciences are found interesting by a lot of people. A lot of different branches like fingerprints, DNA, ballistics, sometimes even entomology. Just examples, of course. But today I'll be talking about a subfield of forensics that is a little bit more on the graphic side. What a lot of people don't know is just how gruesome forensics can really be. Like, a lot of people, or maybe just some people, tend to expect it to be some kind of glamorous life, solving crimes like in those shows CSI, Bones, Rizzoli and Isles, etc. But there are some areas of forensics that may require, for better lack of a word, the stomach to perform the job. The types of crimes that forensic scientists may investigate can vary, one of those being the investigation of deceased and decomposing bodies. Not sounding so glamorous now, is it? And that is actually going to be the focus of the video today. Keep in mind that later in the video I will be using graphic visuals, photographs, to further explain how decomposition works, and I will remain serious during this video due to the graphic nature of decomposition, as it can sometimes be one of the more difficult aspects of forensics for investigators to adjust to, and even for viewers to adjust to as well. If, say, they're watching a forensics show, it's not an easy area to understand. So decomposition is a major area of forensics, so much so that it has its own name. The word taphonomy is derived from the Latin words taphos and nomos, and is the study of the decomposition of biological organisms by studying processes that affect decomposition. Forensic taphonomy is the study of the history of decomposition since the deposition of a body at a recovery site. Basically, since a body was left in a particular place. Put in simple terms, it's the study of identifying the decomposing processes that have occurred on a body since it was set in the location where it was discovered. Forensic taphonomy can reveal a lot of things about a body. Estimating the post-mortem interval, the time since death, which is a term I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, the identification of a body, and determining the cause of death. Sometimes the manner of death, there is a difference between the two. The cause of death is what actually caused the person to become deceased. The manner of death is sort of law enforcement classification, so homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, and unknown. Now, while taphonomy is a set science, it takes elements from many other biological processes and sciences, and can be associated with various other studies such as anthropology, archaeology, botany, entomology, geoscience, mammalogy, meteorology, microbiology, molecular biology, ornithology, pathology, and palynology. That's a lot of sciences, but taphonomy is not. It's almost based off multiple aspects of multiple other sciences. It takes information, in a sense, from multiple other sciences. It's almost a combined field of sorts. So, there are two primary types of taphonomy: biotaphonomy and geotaphonomy. Biotaphonomy focuses on the environmental, biological, and cultural or behavioral factors regarding the decomposition of the remains. When I say cultural and behavioral, I mean scenarios such as, trauma received, broken bones, or embalming processes can affect the processes of decomposition. I just said that twice. But that's what I mean by cultural or behavioral. Geotaphonomy focuses on how the surrounding environment affects the burial of the body, and vice versa. Geotaphonomy will focus on aspects such as soil disturbances, pH levels of the soil surrounding the body, water drainage, erosion patterns, and so forth. The ecology of decomposition is also an important aspect of taphonomy, and in this regard, I'm talking about arthropods. Arthropods, if you don't know, include creatures, animals such as insects, spiders, scorpions, mites, centipedes, millipedes, even crabs, lobsters, and shrimp, and those sorts of things. But arthropods are, in a sense, a part of the decomposition process. They are a primary component of it, I would even say. They're central to the decomposition of a body. But there are 4 primary categories of arthropods that will be involved with decomposition. The first are the necrophagids. They are species that feed on corpse tissue. This includes flies and beetles. Those are the arthropods that will primarily feed on the bulk of the body. The second are omnivores. Those are the species that feed on corpse tissue and the maggots associated with said corpse. It can include ants, wasps, and some species of beetle. Not all, but some. The third are parasites or predators. They are species that parasitize maggots that are feeding on a body. So, some species of flies, wasps especially, and some species of beetles, they will basically, if you don't know, parasitizing is to basically, think of a parasite in a human body. They are foreign bodies that basically use your body as a host for whether it be a food source or reproduction. There are plenty of insects that do that to other insects, and there are plenty of insects that can do that to maggots, which, if you didn't know, are fly larvae, but I'm sure that a lot of people already know quite a bit about maggots, or at least know of them. Anyhow, the last category of arthropods that will feed on a body are the incidentals, probably the smallest group of all of them. These are species that use the body as an extension of their normal habitat. This can include spiders, mites, and centipedes, and typically constitutes only a small percentage of the arthropods, as I said earlier. Though arthropods like spiders and centipedes may eat human flesh, the primary feeders are insects, including cockroaches, ants, bees, and wasps. However, the 2 most prominent groups of insects involved in the process of decomposition are insects of the Coleoptera and Diptera orders. I'm thinking about creating another video or blog post on the various characteristics and families of these orders, but for now I'll only mention those primarily involved in decomposition. So, as mentioned before, taphonomy is an important science in estimating the post-mortem interval, the PMI, which is something I think quite a few people are relatively familiar with, but it is the time elapsed from death to the discovery of a body. Arthropods are often key in determining the PMI, as they can be the best indicators due to predicted breeding and development behaviors, provided you have the correct species and temperature data, because those can vary between different species. Now, the next topic I'll be covering relates to the stages of decomposition. For this part, I will be using a lot of images, many of which may make some viewers uncomfortable, maybe even nauseous, because these are real photographs of real bodies, whether from crime scenes or body farms. So I'm probably going to end up putting up times to skip ahead if there are viewers who do not wish to see these images, but I'll also be revealing descriptions and information regarding each of the stages, so if you do skip ahead, you may miss some information. I may just end up putting that down in the description below the video, any thing that I might have skipped. But anyways, I will continue. So the first stage of decomposition is called the fresh stage. This stage begins at the time of death and lasts approximately up to 24 hours after death, give or take. It all depends on the environment, which is why, hence the give or take. One of the aspects of the fresh stage is the appearance of what is known as lividity. It's a process where gravity pulls blood down to the lowest parts of the body. So, say an individual hung themselves. The blood will rush to the individual's feet, causing them to look reddened, very reddened in color, whereas the face and neck will appear white due to gravity pulling down the blood. Similarly, when an individual will lie down on their back, the backs of their shoulders, their glutes, and the undersides of their legs will become very reddened, whereas the individual's face, chest, and the tops of other parts of their body will look very white and pale in color. The fresh stage is also characterized by what is called rigor mortis, in which muscular tissues become rigid. This occurs usually within about 3 to 6 hours post-mortem. This stage is also characterized by a process called rigor mortis. From the moment of death onward, the body will lose heat to the environment, resulting in an overall cooling of the body. How much heat the body loses depends on the outside temperature. Typically, a body will lose heat in order to acclimate to the surrounding environment. The warmer the environment, the less heat over time the body will lose, but the cooler the environment, the more heat a body will lose every hour. One of the last characteristics of the fresh stage is the process of what is called autolysis, which involves the breakdown of tissue. This breakdown is due to the release of enzymes within the tissue that can eat away at said tissue. The second stage of decomposition is the bloat stage, which occurs within approximately 24 to 72 hours after death, but may also take a little longer, again, depending on the environment. This is a stage which people may actually be somewhat familiar with, for lack of a better term, because this is the stage where gases accumulate within the body, gases such as hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and methane. The accumulation of gases gives the body a bloated appearance, and the gas, hence the name. And the gases produced also cause liquids and tissues in the body to become bubbly. Pressure within the body will cause fluids to leak from the natural orifices, which are openings in the body, such as the ears, mouth, nose, the anal cavity, so on and so forth. The bloat stage is characterized by the bloated appearance, again, hence the name, but it is also characterized by something which is known as marbling. Marbling is the breakdown of hemoglobin in the body. And hemoglobin, as many people might know, is a primary component of blood, which results in a marbled bluish purple-black coloring on the skin. Sometimes greenish, but it can be any one of combination of those colors. Bloating is also characterized by the decomposition of proteins in the body, leading to the deterioration of the body's tissues and the release of the gases trapped inside the body. This particular process that I just mentioned is known as putrefaction, not putrefaction. That is something completely different, but putrefaction. This is also the point where people may be familiar with the knowledge of a rank stench of a decaying body, basically where it starts to smell really bad. The third stage of decomposition is known as active decay, a stage which occurs approximately 4 to 10 days after death. From what I've learned, putrefaction seems to be the transition between the bloat and active decay stages, because the active decay stage is characterized by the deflation of the body. The greatest percentage of biomass of a body is lost during this stage due to the massive feeding of maggot masses, and a lot of skin can also be lost during this stage, but again, a lot of the biomass also begins to, well, the body loses a lot of biomass during this stage as well, due to the deflation of the body. The fourth stage of decomposition is known as advanced decay, which occurs approximately... Sorry. It occurs approximately 1 to 3 weeks after death. This stage is characterized primarily by the very deflated appearance of the body, because the active decay is where the body starts losing those gases accumulating within it, but by the advanced decay stage, it has lost all of those. It's also characterized by the departure of most or all of the dipteran larvae from the body, basically all the maggots. They've either begun to pupate or they're already beginning to become adults. But either way, most of them will have left at this point. By this stage, the body is primarily composed of dry skin, cartilage, and bones. Most of the flesh has been eaten away or is decomposed. Some of it may still be remaining in this stage. Odors may remain on a body in advanced decay, but it will exist in a much lesser degree compared to a body in the bloating or active decay stages. And during this stage, the most arthropod activity probably comes from beetles. Those species tend to have a bit of a preference for dried tissue, as well as any remaining fly larvae on the body. So flies tend to eat away at the fresh flesh, or the really putrid flesh, whereas beetles, they tend to have a bit of a preference for dried flesh. So the fifth and final stage of decomposition is called the skeletal or the dry stage. This will occur approximately 3 weeks post-mortem. I apologize. This will occur approximately 3 weeks post-mortem and onward. The body consists primarily of bones and some dried skin, hence the name. And the odor has all but vanished from the body at this point in the process. Most arthropods have also left the body. There may be a few remaining, but typically not very many. A body in the skeletal stage will remain that way until its discovery, with few changes occurring because bone and collagen, the material in hair and nails, takes significantly longer to degrade compared to skin, organs, flesh. So those are the 5 stages of decomposition. Even in warm environments, this can all happen within the span of just a couple weeks. A body can become bloated, it can become deflated, it can turn into a skeleton, depending on the environment. Of course, if you do find a body in a much colder environment, it will stay preserved for a lot longer due to the lessened arthropod activity. Because again, arthropods are a huge key component in the decomposition process. It's why they're used very often in trying to determine the post-mortem interval. So, in addition to the stages of decomposition, there can be other factors and processes that can occur at a body. I do apologize. One such phenomenon is the appearance of something called adipocere, which a lot of people may not know about. It's a waxy, light gray or brown material comprised of saturated fatty acids. Adipocere can form on a body only in warm and moist environments where there's little to no oxygen available. And it will typically form approximately a month post-mortem, give or take. Adipocere has something of a preservative component and can protect some parts of a body for long periods of time from the decomposition process. One such famous example is an individual known as the Soap Man. I remember reading the story when it was first discovered quite a while ago, but it was definitely an interesting find. He was very well preserved, given the degree of adipocere that was found on his body. And due to the composition of adipocere, it can remain for decades before showing signs of degrading. That's how sturdy it can be. Similarly, mummification is a process that occurs in warm and dry climates or cool and dry conditions, and can also occur in soil with a high salt content. Mummies, as many people might be aware, are typically well preserved compared to other bodies that have decomposed and can retain skin for long periods of time due to the excellent preservation that is present. The sight of a human cadaver undergoing decomposition at any stage is an ugly one, to say the least. But even so, there is a science behind it. There are those who study how decomposition works and how it affects the environment, and how the environment affects it. Taphonomy is important in the forensics field, and though it may be ugly, I need to stop doing that. And though it may be ugly and gruesome to see, it is still imperative to understand its importance and the implications it has for the forensics field. I also personally find it important to recognize the individuals who do have to deal with this on countless occasions, or even on a daily basis. It truly takes a very powerful stomach to stomach it, basically. Taphonomy is very important to the world of forensics, and I hope that after watching this video there is someone else who understands this as well. Taphonomy is not an easy science to understand or study, or even to deal with in real life, but there are individuals who do have the ability to do that. So that is all that I have on this Taphonomy video. If you watched this all the way through, I hope you found it educational and informative, I guess I could say. So, thank you for that.